Today we are building nests. That's just a little workbench with a shelf underneath of it, down there. I helped my mom over the weekend, and we had some leftover 2x4s, and I had some old OSB or plywood, and I told her I could make her a nice little table for out in her garage or her barn. And this is what we're doing in the project today, and hope you enjoy it. It's certainly not perfect, but we used scrap wood throughout it, and really bowed and worked 2x4s. So the fit and finish, that's what you get. But I'm pretty happy with it, and I think it'll be great for her. You know, she can set her garden stuff out on it. You know, when I go over there to help her change the oil or do something at her house, I've got a little spot to set some of my tools. I reuse some of my scrap plywood. That's going to be kind of a oddball build, but you'll see how it's done and have a good idea for what to do. We're going to start off, because this is a cut up piece, I'm going to start on the top and bottom for our measurements, and sling that out here. Our top is at 15 3/4 and our bottom is at 16, because somebody doesn't know how to cut a straight line. So we've got some 2x4 that we had. We're going to throw out our first measurement real quick. Now, because we're using scrap wood, and these 2x4s are extremely bowed and crooked and twisted, I'm not going to be a perfectionist with that. We're just going to do a good measure, cut, and see where the pieces land. If you're going to try this at home, I suggest a pair of safety glasses. I had a piece of sawdust in my eye a couple days ago, and that did not feel good. Shorted myself just a little bit, but again, as twisted as this stuff is, a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch there is not going to make much of a difference. That stuff really throws out some sawdust. You're going to want to do these out on the ends. Get them pretty well flush to the end so you can measure it. Our stretch across is pretty even, but it's a little bit of an odd size. And again, this is being built out of scrap wood, so I'm just going to make it a nice even number and make it an even 59 inches versus the 59 1/8 and like 59 1/16 that it would have been, because we can scoot these in a little bit off the very edge of it and it'll still be fine. Get another 59 inches measured out. Rather than measuring it out with the tape, just to make it a nice even cut, I'm going to use this other piece of wood that we just cut down, line it up right here on the end. Oh my, these are so warped. Got that end lined up, and you can take your pencil and make your new cut line. Now that they're in position, they're cut, they look pretty decent, we can go get some screws and screw them in on each corner, and be ready to move to the next step. Found our screws, ready to go ahead and punch a couple in here. And we're using regular 2x4s again, so we don't have to worry about pre-drilling them. We're using 3-inch exterior screws again. And that's how the frame for it's built. Just that quick and easy. Now the one exception that we're going to do for this one, because that's quite a bit longer, we're going to cut a little piece in here to do as an extra support. You're going to take your measurement on the inside of the 2x4 to the inside. Okay, so we got that one cut, and you see how it doesn't slide right in? That's okay, we can push those out just that little bit and let it drop down. Now I just need to see if we're about even. Okay, that puts us right about in the middle, give or take ½ an inch. Pull my pants up, make sure you guys don't get the plumber's crack. Nobody wants to see that. This is sticking up here just a little bit. So as I'm starting to drill in, I push down and pinch on the wood. Now, we've got a very solid frame. If you were going a little bit bigger, you could add more of these in and split them up. But I'm building this for my mom, so I can't imagine that she's going to have, several hundred pounds on the top of this. So I think that's strong enough. Next step is going to be figuring out where we want the legs at, which means I got to call her and have her tell me how tall she wants it. As an idea for you, if you're thinking the same thing, you can just take a tape measure and then measure up. So let's say it's the top or the bottom of the tape measure here is at 42 inches right now. So if I stand up, we have the workbench about that tall. That would probably be a fairly comfortable area to work on it. If you're doing like a lot of little stuff, soldering or soldering, however you pronounce that, you might want to go more like 48 inches up here. So it's close, you can bend down just that little bit and get right in it. Well, after getting hold of the mother and figuring out, she is quite a bit shorter than me. So for her, right in the neighborhood of 36 inches was about how tall she wants it. Which, if you're around 6 foot, is probably a little bit too short. Because that's like, way down here. But she's, 5'5", so shrink that down a little, probably comfortable. We're going to go ahead and cut up our legs here, which are going to be measured out at the 36 inches. We've got our legs all cut to size. We're going to screw them in. We're sticking 3 screws in each leg in kind of a wonky looking triangle, whichever way they'll fit on there conveniently to give it a little extra strength. Guess I was a little bit wrong with my own measurements there. 36 is pretty nice. That's a good height. I thought it was going to be a little more arms extended to get to the surface there. But that's not bad at all. We can go ahead and throw our top on. So we're just going to try to line it up here about as evenly as you can. So now we can take our little short screws and throw them in. These are only like 1.25 inches. Drive one down into each edge. Alright, 4 corners are down. I'm going to do one probably about every foot across there. And that'll be more than enough to keep our top held down. Something we're doing a little different with this workbench is we're going to add a shelf on there because I've got these 2 scrap pieces here. So they're almost the exact same width as the top piece here. So we might have to trim it just a little bit, but we can make a nice shelf across the bottom that you can stick any extra junk on. We need to measure that out. It was 59 inches is what we had on the last one, and that goes to the outside edge of our legs. So we'll hit 59 inches. What we can do now is stick this on the inside here, and that will support the pieces of plywood that we're going to stick on it. Now what we need to do is measure and see how high up we want it. So after going and measuring a couple of totes, I'm going to try to set at least 15 inches between here and see how that looks. So going off the height of that, I can actually adjust that and come down 17 inches and it still looks okay for the position of it. Which gives it a little extra height for whatever we need to stick on there. And doing this by ourselves, we can get it pretty level without a whole lot of complications. We'll hold this down here. Throw my first screw in. You can tighten that up a little bit and still be able to move this side of it. So we're going to pull this one up. It shifted just a little bit, but that's still pretty level. Right, now we can solidify it up here with our extra couple of screws. All right, we're going to do the same thing for this back piece, and I'll bring you back for the next step. We've got our back support there installed, so now we're ready to start working on our shelf. Because this is a wider piece of plywood than what we're dealing with, we're going to have to cut a little notch here if we want the plywood to go all the way to the end of our leg. So we're going to notch it. That way the whole shelf is usable, even the little space behind the leg. That's just a nice little feature that you can do. If you're in a hurry, by all means, you don't have to do that. But I've marked off, we measured our width here, and then just marked off the edge of the inside of the 2x4. So we've got one mark there and one mark here for our length and our width. Use a carpenter square and our pencil. So here's our little pattern that we're going to cut out. I gotta go get a saw for it. We'll cut that, and then prep up this side and cut it. Okay, we made our first little nick there because our legs here were uneven. So now we can butt that up tight, and then we'll get our measurement over on that side for where we gotta cut and notch. So our inside notch, we can just cut right here, and then measure out that 3 3/8 that we did on the other side. Okay, our notches are cut, and it fits down in there. We can actually go just a little bit cattywampus with it and get this one to fit up tighter. There. Force the table to move just a little bit with it. Now getting this back line here to be even or square or any of that is going to be pretty well impossible. But this back side is going up against the wall. So we can just make a nice little line here where we want to snip it off and do that. Now, because we're using 2 little pieces of the scrap, I'm going to mark right here on our 2x4, and we can pull this back out for another minute. Because now what we need to do is snip down one of our little extra pieces of 2x4 to fit right there and give each end of that a bunch of support. So we're just going to mark this right here. Give her a cut, and then we go right in the middle of those 2. And I boogered that up. I made it a little bit short. But this is just supporting our plywood, so it's okay. You can bridge the distance just a little bit with your screw. Now, do you want to build a whole house that way? No. Can you build a little piece of the shelf that way? Yeah, sure. That slips right back in. Now we've got a little lip for our other piece here to sit on. We're good to find a couple of little screws. Probably only need like 1 in each corner down here. All right, we finished it up. Certainly not my proudest work, but this little shelf has got that gap in it from where I screwed stuff up. But hey, for using scrap wood and a couple of badly bowed 2x4s, I think that's pretty decent. I think it's going to work great for my mom. She can throw it out in the barn or in the garage and have a new spot to stick some junk here, set some of the stuff that we're using at her place up on the top, and hopefully it gave you guys an idea and you can improve upon it. Or my big workbench on the sides here, I used 4x4s and had some straighter wood, so that helped a little bit. But that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.